Hello everyone. So our topic for the presentation is the measurement of stage and the velocity. So before that, first we need to get introduced to some things which will help us to know that why do we need the measurement of stage and the velocity. So what is a stream? So a stream is basically a flow channel into which the surface runoff from a specific basin drains. So this surface runoff means when precipitation happens, then some lodges happens. So after these lodges, whatever water flows over the ground is the surface runoff. This surface runoff makes the flow channel, and this is the unit of the flow channel, in which is meter cube per second. Now, why do we need the stream flows? Because these help us for the planning and the designing of various water resources projects, for example dams, etc., and also helps us in case of flood control, irrigation, water quality, etc. Now, how do we measure these stream flows? So basically there are two main techniques. The first one is direct determination of stream flows, for example area velocity method and dilution techniques, etc., and the second one is indirect determination of stream flow. So what happens? Direct measurement of stream discharge is very costly and time consuming because of the irregular geometry of the river cross section and the high variation of and of flow velocity in space and time. And what happens? Most of the rivers require a series of measurements of flow velocity in each subsection of the cross section to achieve one accurate measurement of discharge, which is not the easy task. So, another method is used in which first we measure the stream stage, then the discharge measurement is being done, and after that we define a relationship which is called stage discharge relationships. And finally, using this, we get the stream flow. So now, how do we calculate the stages? So what is a stage? The stage of a stream is defined as the water surface elevation measured above a datum. Here datum is basically a reference point from where we measure the stage. So these are some of the techniques of stage measurement. The first one is manual process, in which we need to be present at the site to measure the data. And this is the drawback of these type of gauges. The second one is automatic stage recorder. In this, we don't need to be present at the site. These automatically collect the data. These are the types of these both gauges. Now, the first one is staff gauge. This is the simplest method to get the stages. In this, what we do, the measurement is done by simply noting the elevation of water surface in contact with a which is in contact with a fixed staff, where this staff is basically a giant ruler on which the markings are distinctive and can be read far from the staff. And these may be of three types. The first one is vertical staff gauges. In this case, as the name suggests, the staff is vertical to the stream, and it is fixed on the pillars of the bridges and the piers of the bridges. The second one is inclined staff bridges. This cause is fixed inclined on the bank of the river, as you can see in the picture. The third one is sectional staff gauges. So sometimes what happens that one single gauges is not enough to read the entire range of the water surface elevation of a stream. So what we do, we apply more than one gauges in sections at different locations. And one thing that we need to ensure that these all these refer all the sections to the same datum. As we can see here, this is from 0 to 2, then this is 2 to 4, and this is 4 to 6. Now another one is wire gauge. So this is basically used to measure the water surface elevation above the surface. So in this, what happens, we have a weight at the end of the wire and a pulley. So generally it is fixed on the bridges like things. So what happens, a weight is lowered by a reel to touch the water at the water surface. So when the weight touches the water surface, then we have a mechanical counter in the gauges which measures the number of rotations of the wheel, which is proportional to the length of the wire paid out. And and using this we can measure the length of the wire between the gauge and the water surface, and then we can get the elevations. Now the next one is float gauge recorder. So in the float gauge recorder, these are some of the components of the design of the gauge. So there is a stilling well, and there are some intake pipes. Okay, this is the stilling well, and these are the intake pipes. And there is a float which is balanced by the counterclockwise pipe over the pulley of a recorder. This is the float. and a pen and the drum for the plot of the stage versus time, and this drum is driven by clockwork. These all components are in this recorder part, and there are some also mechanical linkage available. So now the process of float gauge recorder. So what happens that um, water water enters and water enters is leamed into the stilling well through the intake pipes, and it allows the same elevation in the stilling well as in the river. It can be understood by the Pascal's law. Now there is a displacement occur of this pulley, which is the angular displacement due to the rising and lowering of this water level. And as I said, there are some mechanical linkages available. So those mechanical linkages convert this the angular displacement of this pulley into the linear displacement of this pen, which is used to record the data on this drum. And this drum is driven by a clockwork. So one thing is that this pen traverse is continuous with automatic reversing. So when it reaches the full length of the chart, it automatically gets reversed. And this clockwork mechanism runs the recorder for a day week and give a continuous plot of stage versus time. Another important thing is that these stilling wells are used to prevent the float from debris and reduce the water surface wave effect on the recorder. So now these are some of the limitations of this method. That the construction of stilling wells is very costly, and in case of big debris, the intake pipes may be clogged. Now another one is bubble gauge recorder. So these are the components of this gauge. So what happens that first the compressed gas is made to bleed out into the river through an outlet which is present at the bottom of the river, as we can see here. So when this gas reaches here, this feels a pressure due to the water body above this. And this pressure is measured by a gauge. It's a pressure gauge. So whenever the elevation of water surface changes, the pressure will changes, because as we can see that pressure is gamma h. So when h changes, pressure will change. So what happens? There is a servo mechanism is used to bring the gas to bleed at the same rate under the new pressure head, and the pressure gauge read the new head. And this is how this method is used to measure the stages. Now, these are some of the advantages of bubble gauge over the float gauge. That in bubble gauge we don't need an stilling well, so it is less costly. And in bubble gauge, large chances in the stage can be measured, like 30 meters, and the recorder assembly can be quite far away from the sensing point. Because in case of floating well, the stilling well should be near the bank of the river.
Measurement of velocity. Velocity is measured by two techniques. Current meters are used to measure the point velocity, and floats for measuring the surface velocity of a small stream. Surface velocity is given by distance traveled by the float divided by time taken. Vertical axis current meter. It consists of a series of conical cups mounted around a vertical axis. These cups rotate in a horizontal plane. Measured velocity is proportional to the number of revolutions of the cup assembly. Normal range of these meters is 0.15 to 4 meters per second, and accuracy of the measurement is about 1.5% at threshold values, and improves to 0.3% when the velocity is greater than 1 meter per second. Here, threshold value is the velocity at which sediments just start to move. Sounding weights enable the meter to position in a stable manner. Their minimum weight is given by 50 times V average D. The instrument shows positive velocity if it is lifted vertically in still water. It means they cannot be used if there is a significant component of vertical velocity. Horizontal axis current meter. These meters consist of a propeller mounted at the end of the horizontal shaft. Concept of sounding weight is same as vertical axis meter. Calibration equation. for current meters. Since the velocity varies linearly with the rotation speed, it can be written as A times ns plus V is equal to V. Values of A and V is determined by calibration in a towing tank. In a towing tank, a carriage moves over still water at a constant speed. In this process, average values of number of revolutions, which is ns, is determined. And this is repeated again and again, and we can find the best fit linear relation. Average velocity. Current meters measure the velocity of a point, but as civil engineers, we often need average velocity of a vertical section, and it is time consuming to do with current meters. So some simple methods evolved to estimate the average velocity. Single point method for shallow streams of depth up to 3 meters. In this method, V average is estimated as velocity at 0.6 d, where d is the depth of flow. Two-point method for moderately deep streams. In this method, V average is estimated as average of velocities at 0.2 d and 0.8 d. For flood flows, V average is equal to K times Vs, where K is a reduction factor lies between 0.85 and 0.95, and Vs is surface velocity within a depth of 0.5 meter below the surface. Here is a solved example. In this question, velocity distribution is given to us, and we are asked to show that measured velocity is equal to the mean velocity if the velocity is measured at 0.6 depth from the water surface. And in the distribution function, y is above the bed, so we have to take care of that. So from part A, we can say that V and A are constants. So to simplify the expression, we take K as a constant. Now from simple calculus, we can calculate V average, and velocity at 0.6 d is equal to K times 0.4 d to the power 1/6, since y is equal to 1 minus 0.6 d. So if we take the ratio of these two values, it comes out to be nearly equal to 1. So it means V 0.6 is equal to V average. Similarly, we can proceed with part B, and the ratio comes out to be 1 in this example. Here is a question for students which you can solve on your own. Thanks for watching the video.